Hey everyone, welcome to Recap Blitz. Dominica was born into a world of light and music. From the day she could walk, she felt the music move her feet. She grew up near the big Imperial Theater in Russia. One cold winter night, at the annual gala, Dominica took the stage with her dance partner, Alexei. The orchestra's first note rang out. She rose on point and spun toward Alexei, her heart soaring. But in a cruel twist, Alexei's boot caught her calf as he lifted her for a grand jeté. In the hospital, metal pins held her leg in place. The surgeon's face was grave. Dominica knew in her bones that her dancing days were over, at least for a long time. She left the hospital with shaky steps and a heart full of fear. When she returned home, she found her Uncle Ivan sitting in the living room. Ivan was the deputy director of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Agency. He rarely visited. His life was secrets and shadows. Dominica poured him tea, her hands trembling. He sipped in silence, then slid a manila folder across the table. Without a word, he rose and left. Inside the folder, Dominica found a tape recorder and a stack of photos. That night, she pressed play on the recorder. Two voices spoke quietly but clearly. Her dance partner Alexei and another ballerina, Yelena. They laughed about how Dominica would never see it coming. They planned to break her leg so Yelena could take her leading role. Anger boiled inside Dominica. She raised a broken prop stick and yelled. They stumbled back in fear as she swung, calling an ambulance in her mind even as she fled. When she arrived home, her mother lay on the floor, crying in pain. The theater had cut off payments after Dominica's injury. The next day, Dominica went to Ivan's office. You must work for me to repay them. There's a man named Dmitri, a powerful tycoon. Go to the Grand Meridian Hotel this Friday at 9. Dress in this gown. Sit where he can see you. Make him talk to you. Then you will swap his phone for this fake one. He slid a small device across his desk. Do it, or lose everything. Dominica stared at her uncle in shock. She would never dream of tricking a man like that. But her mother's life was at stake. She nodded. Ivan gave her a chilling smile and handed her the gown. Friday night came. Dominica put on the red gown. She brushed her hair until it shone. Her heart pounded as she entered the Grand Meridian's lobby bar. Chandeliers glittered overhead. Soft music played. She saw Dmitri at a corner table, surrounded by bodyguards. She sat near him, ordering a glass of wine. Her pulse raced. Dmitri looked up and smiled. He invited her to sit. As they spoke, Dominica's hand drifted toward her purse, where the fake phone lay. Suddenly, a masked figure burst from the shadows. With a swift movement, he wrapped a wire around Dmitri's neck. Dmitri gasped and fell silent. The bodyguard lunged, but the assassin shot him with a silenced pistol. Dominica froze, terror rooting her in place. The killer grabbed her by the arm. Come, he hissed. She obeyed, too stunned to scream. He led her to a motorcycle outside. The cold air bit her face as they sped away into the black night. They reached a hidden room in the hotel's back wing. The assassin pulled off his helmet. To Dominica's disbelief, it was her Uncle Ivan. His eyes were cold and empty. He held up a badge from the intelligence agency. You saw too much, he said quietly. You have two choices. Train with us and become one of our spies. Or die. Dominica felt the room spin. To die here, in this dark room, with her mother alone at home, she could not allow that. With shaking lips, she whispered, I'll do it. Ivan's face softened just a bit. Good, he said. Pack. You leave at dawn. That night, Dominica barely slept. She thought of her mother, lying at home with no help. She thought of the stage, the bright lights, the applause, and she wept for what she had lost. At first light, Ivan's driver came for her. Dominica climbed into the car and looked back at the city she'd called home. Snow drifted across the pavement. She knew she was leaving her old life forever. They drove north into Siberia, past forests of birch and pines, until the road ended at a gated compound. A sign read, Secret Military School No. 4. The building loomed cold and gray against the white snow. Inside, a stern female instructor met Dominica. She handed her a binder. Read these rules, the woman said. Here, no one is called by name. You are Sparrow 47. You answer only to orders. Understood. Dominica nodded. The binder's pages said the same. Report no personal details. Trust no one. Obey without question. She forced herself to swallow hard. That day, she joined a class of young recruits. Men and women from across Russia. They wore gray uniforms and carried knives at their belts. Her heart pounded as she saw how tough they all looked. She felt small and unprepared. Lessons began at dawn. They learned to shoot pistols, pick locks, track footprints in the snow, speak in code. Every skill she had as a dancer, balance, grace, focus, helped her learn fast. Soon she was among the top in her group, but her success made others jealous. One afternoon, after training, Dominica went to the showers. Steam rose in thick clouds. Suddenly, a hand shoved her against the wall. A male recruit sneered. He had been angry at her winning top marks. Dominica's mind flashed to her dance days, how she had always fought for every spot. Instinct took over. She grabbed a steel squeegee and swung it, striking him hard. He tumbled to the floor, groaning. Within minutes, the headmistress stormed in. She glared at Dominica, but instead of punishment, she delivered a cruel test. She forced Dominica and the other recruit to stand naked before the class. She said that to repay the motherland, they must give up their bodies and their pride. Dominica looked down, shame burning her cheeks. Then the recruit sneered. "Fine," said Dominica. She lifted her chin and began to undress. Slowly, she let her clothes fall. The recruit's face went from smug to horrified. He could not bear such calm bravery and turned away, putting on his pants. The class watched in silence. That day, Dominica understood the true price of being a sparrow. You had to lose every piece of yourself. Yet she felt proud. She had beaten fear with courage. Her body healed from the old dance injury, but her heart hardened to the cold of spy life. Finally, the day came when Uncle Ivan called with her first real mission. A CIA agent named Nash had snuck into Russia months ago to meet a secret informant in a park. When police arrived, Nash had shot in the air to save his contact. He had escaped to the U.S. Embassy, then vanished. Now reports said he was in Budapest, Europe. Ivan needed to find out what he knew. Dominica flew to Budapest and moved into a quiet block of flats owned by the Russian security service. Her roommate was Marta, a veteran sparrow who offered her nods of warning. Marta said the local station chief was a lecherous old man. Dominica only nodded and kept her eyes on Nash, whom she watched from the pool each morning. Nash was tall and broad-shouldered, with short brown hair and alert eyes. She noticed that he swam every day at the municipal pool. She decided to join, painting her hair blonde and wearing a bright swimsuit. When she signed up, she almost used a fake name, but something inside her made her use her true name, Dominica Ivanova, right there on the form. At the pool the next morning, she swam past Nash. He glanced up, eyes narrowing, as if he recognized her from somewhere. She smiled nervously. Later, when she was leaving, Nash called after her. "Hey?" He jogged over and introduced himself. "You new here?" he said. Dominica stammered an excuse. Nash's gaze was sharp. He knew she was following him. That night, at a wine reception, Nash and Dominica met again. He asked her about Russia, and she spoke carefully. He told her about his work as a CIA agent. Neither fully trusted the other, but a strange bond formed. They agreed to have dinner the next night. Dominica returned to her flat and found Marta gone. In the corner of the wall, she discovered an oil-stained paper bag. Inside were intimate photos of Marta with an American woman and a diary. Marta was planning to sell Russian secrets for $250,000 to a chief of staff in the U.S. Senate. Shocked, Dominica realized Marta had used her to gather dirt on Dominica's uncle. Before Marta returned, Dominica hid the diary pages. When Marta walked in, she gave Dominica a note, proof that Dominica had refused the station chief's advances. Marta had snitched to Moscow that Dominica was failing. Bitter, Dominica decided to act. Instead of dinner with Nash, she followed him home. At his apartment building, she rang his buzzer, pretending to need his help to lock her bicycle. Nash let her in out of courtesy. Once inside, She tried to make him understand that they could be friends, that he could trust her. But Nash was cautious. He told Dominika to think about what she really wanted. Hurt and angry, Dominika left. The next day, Nash did not appear at the pool. Dominika waited all morning, then night, but he never came. Desperate, she snuck into his flat using the lockpicking skills she'd learned. She looked everywhere for clues, but found only 2 half-drunk glasses of wine on the table. She pocketed one glass, fingers touching Nash's prints. That evening, Ivan arrived in Budapest. Dominika met him at a riverside cafe and told him about Marta's deal in London. She said they were both in on it and needed $250,000 to make it happen. Ivan's eyes gleamed at the news of such a big score. He slipped her the money in a dark envelope. As Ivan turned to leave, he forgot his coat. Dominika fetched it and saw his passport inside the pocket. She memorized the number immediately, storing away her last shred of safety. After Ivan left, Dominika heard a noise. Marta stood behind her, a gun in hand. Marta had overheard everything. "Why are you trying to steal my prize?" Marta hissed. Dominika explained that she had seen the assassin kill Dmitri under her uncle's orders and needed to protect herself. Marta's fury faded into fear. She knew Dominika was right. Anyone who knew too much got killed. They left the cafe, each wary of the other. The next morning, Dominika took a train ticket to Vienna. She boarded the train before Marta could act. In Vienna, she went to a large bank. She watched a young teller close up shop. She smiled at him, playing the helpless beauty, and coaxed him into letting her fill out a new account form. He agreed, flattered by her attention. Once he locked the door to leave, Dominika patted his shoulder and slipped inside, using her spy training to copy his key and open his safe. But there was nothing of use inside. Back in Budapest that night, Dominika came home to find Marta dead in their bathroom, her blood staining tiles. The assassin who had killed Dmitri and the station chief had struck again. He spared Dominika, but warned her that next time there would be no mercy. The local police questioned Dominika, but found nothing. Nash showed up at the station, having learned through his own channels that Dominika was a Sparrow spy. He confronted her outside, under the street lamps. He told her how cold and cruel the Russian agency was, how they sacrificed their own people without a second thought. Nash urged Dominika to join the CIA, promising her safety. For the first time, Dominika felt her resolve waver. She agreed to go with Nash to the CIA's safe house. There, 2 agents strapped her to a chair and put a lie detector on her. They asked her endless questions. Dominika's spy training kicked in. She stayed calm, her heart steady. The machine beeped, showing no lies. After the test, Dominika made her own demand $30,000 each month to her Vienna account. The agents bristled, calling her greedy. To prove her worth, Dominika revealed Marta's deal with the Senate Chief of Staff. The agents' eyes widened. This was big news. They agreed to her terms and planned to move on the London sting with her guidance. Weeks later, Dominika traveled to London. At the Beaumont Hotel, she met Stephanie, the Senate Chief's aide, in a quiet room. Maxim, the station chief, hid behind a pillar with a gun. Dominika laid out the $250,000 in crisp bills. Stephanie eyed the money and laughed, ready to hand over the real diskette. But Dominika needed time to switch it with the fake. The CIA agent on surveillance tried to call in, but was blocked. Dominika whispered to Stephanie that a hotel manager wanted feedback, luring Maxim out. In the brief confusion, she swapped the diskette. Mission complete, Dominika told Stephanie to leave in an hour. Stephanie, panicked by the sight of men watching her, grabbed the bag of cash and dashed out. As she crossed the street, she dropped the bag into a trash can and looked both ways, but a speeding truck struck her, killing her instantly. Dominika watched from the window, horror gnawing at her soul. The hotel's Russian guards saw it happen. Maxim called Moscow. "It's done," he said. "We should return." He ushered Dominika onto a private jet bound for Moscow. Nash arrived at the airport seconds too late. He saw Dominika stepping into the VIP lounge with Russian agents. She caught his eye and shook her head, warning him to stay back. Back in Moscow, Dominika faced brutal interrogation. Water froze on her skin as guards poured it over her naked body. They beat her until she blacked out and showed her videos of Maxim's execution. Each time they asked if she had betrayed Russia. Each time, she said no. At last, Uncle Ivan entered the room. He stood over her, his voice soft. "Tell me the truth." Dominika, bruised and broken, whispered that she had only earned the Americans' trust to learn about Marta's deal. "She did it for Russia," she said. Ivan studied her, pain in his eyes. He left the room without a word. Days passed. Dominika remained in a cell. She feared Ivan would order her death. Then one morning, she was released. The director of the agency praised her loyalty and cunning. Rumors said Ivan had argued that his niece was a brilliant asset, but he warned her in private that if she ever betrayed him, he would kill her himself. Dominika returned to Budapest once more. She met Nash in a quiet park. She asked him for more money and for protection. He gave in, his heart torn between love and duty. But as she turned to leave, a flash of movement behind her caught her eye. The assassin was there, knife in hand. He lunged at Nash. Dominika reacted in an instant. She tackled the assassin and freed Nash's bound hands. The three fought in the dark alley. Dominika slashed the assassin's tendon, and he fell, screaming. She grabbed his weapon and stood over him as he pleaded. Then she turned away, her face hard. When she woke, she was in a safe house hospital, Nash at her side. "You saved me," he whispered. Dominika nodded, but her gaze was distant. She knew they were both marked now. A week later, Dominika received a coded message from the old headmaster in Siberia, the man who had taught her to strip away every piece of herself. He revealed that he had been the Senate chief's informant. His wife had died because the Russian government refused her an American doctor. Tired of espionage, he offered to step aside if Dominika exposed him. Realizing this was her chance to win her life back, Dominika went to the Budapest police. She confessed to killing the assassin and asked to speak to the Russian embassy. There, she demanded to talk directly to the director in Moscow. On a secure line, she named the traitor, her own uncle, Ivan. She offered his hidden passport number and evidence of his secret bank account in Vienna in exchange for her freedom. Moments later, Russian agents arrived at the airport to hand over the mole. But when they removed the hood, it was Ivan, trembling and defeated. Nash watched in disbelief as Ivan was led away. Weeks later, news came that Ivan had been executed for treason. With Ivan gone, Dominika returned to Moscow in triumph. The director welcomed her as a hero and made her the new deputy director of intelligence. The headmaster, once her cruel teacher, now sat by her side, praising her with quiet respect. Dominika stood on the balcony of the Kremlin, looking out at the city lights. She had lost her mother's health, her dancing career, even her own innocence. But she had gained power, a new name, and a place at the center of Russia's secret world. Below, the music of soldiers marching echoed through the courtyard. Dominika closed her eyes and let the sound wash over her. No more dancing in glittering theaters. Her stage was now the world, and she would dance on its shadows, spinning a web of secrets, her steps unseen.
Subscribe. Join next time for another story that makes you think and feel. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.